So you were in the booth for all four. Are you on the call for the Tiger series as well?
I am.
Okay,
yes,
cool.
I am for the next three. So if that's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. I thought you crushed it. I thought you did a great job, man.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun.
You seem very comfortable, very natural. So yeah,
I appreciate that. Thank you, guys.
But as far as what you witnessed out there, look, it's 4 games. We're trying to keep it all in perspective, but I think, this fan base has got a little PTSD with poor offense, and then when you come out and average 2 runs a game for the first 4 games, it doesn't make anybody feel that good. And if not for a Julio monster shot, they're 1-3 in this series. What was your takeaway from what you witnessed?
Yeah, no, and it's a good way to put it, the PTSD. I think the one thing that kind of stands out to me is if let's say you went 0-4 and you did it and you put up a 6 spot and you struck out half the amount of times, well, then you could walk away from that and go, oh, man, we're losing games. However, this is a different team. But 4 games in, I'm not sitting here saying we're going to repeat what we saw in 2024. The hard thing that kind of raises its ugly little head is just the swing and miss. The third worst in strikeout percentage after the 4-game series. They struck out 41 times, and you mentioned that home run from Julio. That's a big bright spot. Just to switch gears into a positive here with him, it took him 23 games to go deep last year. And if you remember, he was hovering in the 16, 17 home runs all the way up into the month of August last year. So that's a really good sign. It's just, to me, when you look at the team offensively, I'll get to the pitching in a minute. There's a lot of bright spots. But offensively, as a player, when you're in the dugout in the clubhouse, you get beat, strike out, 11, 12, 13 times, and you roll in, and you're sitting on that top step of the dugout from a pitcher, or if you're in the box or you're in the cage, you just have that, you're just reminiscent about 2024 and all the things that you wanted to try and correct, and the different philosophy and everything you sort of overcame when you're talking middle of August and September. So that was the difficult part, just from a player standpoint. I don't think it's going to last. I really don't. You just want a situation where you can go out against the Detroit Tigers, which is going to match up some tough starting pitching, but a bullpen you can handle. Go put up a 6 spot in Game 5, right? Go smash someone, and then so you can just say, you know what? Okay, yeah, we're good. I mean, there's too much talent in this lineup to even think or to have that PTSD, whether you're a fan and a player. And this is where I'm coming from about 2024 and what we saw in the first half of last year. So I think there was some bright spots, plenty of base runners. I thought Ryan Bliss, I love how aggressive he was all weekend. So there's definitely some bright spots, but it was just tough to overlook the 41 strikeouts.
What about the A's, Ryan? I mean, it just looked like a different team, and they actually made some moves. So how much do you chalk up to the A's or a better ball club? I know it's only a short sample, but I'm
not going to say they're a better team. Starting pitching, first of all, Jeffrey Springs. By the way, and I'm not talking. He just had this, flash of the pan, all of a sudden dominating the lefty who threw the second night. First of all, he punched out 9 at the end of last year. He was one of the most dominant in regards to stuff's numbers in the last month of the season last year before he hit the IL again, coming back from surgery. And that's why they went hard and they gave up, 4 or 5 players to get him. You also ran into Luis Severino, who I thought they had some really good at-bats against him. So when you're talking about the Oakland A's as a team in this division, don't sleep on them, man. There are some pieces in that in that lineup, and some young core players that are going to be sticking around for the next 3 to 5. When you're talking, obviously, Lawrence Butler, Brent Rooker, Jacob Wilson, and Max Muncy down the bottom. I was super impressed by both of those guys. So they're going to be a handful, I really feel like. The thing that stood out to me, and this is what I'm getting at, talked about the starting pitching. And then, JPC yesterday, they end up getting to him. The thing that stood out to me is the weak spot for the Athletics, Sacramento A's, whatever you want to call them.
Just the A's.
They're Las Vegas, who knows. The thing that stood out to me, their weak point was that bullpen. You had a couple times there where you got to that bullpen in the 6th and 7th where you got a chance to get a little deeper, and that's where you have to do your damage, right? And that's when, especially the month of April, teams get exposed because they stack up some starting pitching. They got some good offense. You know what? They shied away from investing in that bullpen, and that's where you can really get them. So the Mariners had some opportunities against that bullpen, and that's what's going to let down the Athletics. Excuse me, said it again. And I've just felt like, man, on 2 sides of this. Number one, it's like offensively, do some damage. Put him on the ropes. They had one kid, a Rule 5 pick, making his debut, who all of a sudden landed 2 pitches and boom, all of a sudden he's out of the inning. And so there's moments like that which were frustrating. However, with the Athletics, looking at them, they're going to get let down by depth, especially in their pitching staff in that bullpen.
Hey, looking at the Mariners rotation, I thought Logan Gilbert was everything you expected him to be and more. I thought he was outstanding. I thought Brian Wu was very good. I thought Castillo was solid. I didn't think he was spectacular or electric. I thought his changeup looked really good.
Yeah.
But he's just not a guy who goes deep. He just is not, the efficiency isn't there with him. And then Miller was had some good moments, but overall you were kind of like, it wasn't certainly not his best. What was your takeaway from the 4 starts?
Yeah, first of all, Logan, congratulations, opening day start. That was special to him. And I had a really good chat with him on the top step. Have to mix it in there. Let's
You
go,
said
Dave.
it just
Let's
like
go,
Dave
birthday
Wyman.
boy.
Yeah,
I was trying to do the Dave Wyman impression. But there it is. He was so good on opening night, man. I was kind of maybe thinking, all right, you might lose a bit of command because he's so fired up, whatever it may be. Oh, man, he lasted two hitters with the nerves, and then after that, it was like untouchable. I didn't care who he was facing. And then you mentioned Luis Castillo, and I'll get to Bryce in just a second. And obviously, Brian Wu was dominant yesterday. He looked fantastic, and the fact that he can cruise through 6 and you can take him out without breaking a sweat because you want him to get 30-plus starts. But back to Luis Castillo, number 1. You mentioned his changeup. Man, I would love to. Look, I'm not down there, and he knows obviously himself, and so does Pete Woodworth, does it better than anyone. But, man, he started to throw that changeup a little bit more, and he was getting swing and miss with it. The one thing with Luis Castillo, as the years have gone on, there's been a drop in the changeup, especially the lefties and the righties as well, and there just hasn't been the same swing and miss late in counts. There's been some really weak contact, and he's dominant. 2024, he was still dominant. But, man, how do we get back to that swing and miss? How do we get back to that point where he can get consistent at the top of the strike zone? And I've said this all year long last year. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but you brought it up, so I'm going to just keep saying it. Throw that change up more. It's filthy. It is so nasty, too. And every time I look on, some of the metrics of it, I'm like, Dad, why did we put that in the back pocket last year? And then Bryce Miller, I think he looked good. Velocity was good. Spin was good, everything. And coming off a dominant second half, I'm not worried about energy fading, any stamina issues. Just a tough time. And he even said this in the post game. Just putting hitters away. And I'll be honest with you. I think coming out of spring training, I was curious as to what his weapons were going to be with 2 strikes. He went to that breaking ball a ton, but he didn't see the split as much. So I think, look, he'll figure that out. Once he gets on a roll like he did last year, and he knows what pitch, he throws like 7 of them, what pitch and what count feels the best, I think he's going to dominate. But that's what's tricky. When you're working with a new pitch or a couple new pitches and then you get to 2 strikes, sometimes it get a little tricky because you got a couple options and you try and do maybe a little too much, and we saw a little bit of that. But he was still good, man. He was still really, really good.
Ryan, we were talking about Ryan Bliss and how natural he looked out there, very smooth. And then, of course, Polanco's bat was fantastic. What stood out in this series in a pleasant surprise kind of way?
Yeah. Okay. Ryan Bliss, 100%. And you guys have spoken to him. Great dude, man. He's so easy. He's just so easy to root for. I mean, everyone knows that. Walk in the club, they say, hey, what's up? He's that kind of guy. So it's good to see him. First of all, first opening day, a lot of emotions attached to that. And then not just that, he's starting at second base. And so he's in this mindset, and Bob and I talked about this. What was it, last week? Where not saying the organization is looking at him glass half empty, but you make the team because there's a need at second base. You've come off a good spring, and subconsciously, all right, prove to me why you shouldn't be here, if that makes sense, right? I've felt like that too, as a player that's trying to not just get to the big leagues but stay. And I think for that's easy to slip into this mindset where I don't want to take risks. I'll hesitate a little bit. I'm not going to take that extra bag. He didn't do any of that. He was so aggressive. I absolutely love that. They need that dynamic offense. They need that scouting report to build with other starting pitchers coming in saying, hey, watch out for Bliss because he's going to take off, and just put that fear in the back of pitchers' minds when he's over at first base. That was huge. I thought he still handled. There's one fastball he missed up in the strike zone. That's a big question mark for him this year. Can he handle the fastball at the top of the strike zone? He missed one, I believe, and the rest he was on it. So I love what I saw. Pleasant surprise, and you can see him being more of an established piece there at second base. For Polanco, I love what I'm seeing offensively. The knee apparently feels a lot better. And for him, I think he's still it's a long season. A little bit of a work in progress over at third base. Spoke to Perry Hill. I talked about this on the broadcast the other night. It's super important because he wants to take it to another level, playing on the left side of the infield. So he's got a throwing program every day. He's working on that throwing program. There's a little hesitation there because Perry said just about, throwing in. He kind of guessed this, to like crow hopping and just letting it eat with that left knee, like that landing knee. But, man, if you can get him swinging the way we saw it in the Twins uni before he came over to the Mariners, man, that's a huge plus for this team.
How patient do you think they'll be at third base with him? Defensively speaking, obviously, if the bat plays the way that it did through this series, he's going to be a huge asset. But again, 4 games, I keep having to qualify it. He looked like he could be a liability in the field. That was not a good throw when he charged that ball. It was like a 2 or 3 hop. Dylan couldn't pick it at first. It was just, it didn't look good. And we saw, JP sail a ball over Solano's head. We saw, I still don't know what the hell Colin Snyder was doing on the pop-up. There were some interesting moments defensively speaking, which you and I talked about, the idea that it could be a little shaky defensively in this infield. And unfortunately, we saw some of that.
Well, hey, yeah, Bob, you brought that up last week. I remember diving in when I left the show because I was like, man, hang on a sec, defense-wise, how are we looking here in regards to left and right, back and forth, and everything else with range? But look, Polanco, and like I said, so it's something they're probably working on right now. Down here with with Perry Hill, and working on that throwing program, and it's not something. And Perry talked about this too. When he's a little bit more confident with the throw, and it's not because he's worried about his arm strength. He has the arm strength. You go on Baseball Savant, might see a little blue dial there in regards to the low percentile arm strength, excuse me. But that's because he's playing second base, right? So once you get more reps and you get more opportunity at third base and you start letting it eat, I think good things are going to happen. The other thing is, too, mentally, look, I had landing leg, it's called lead leg blocking on my right knee as a pitcher. I had chondromalacia, all kinds of cartilage issues. In your head, you get in your head, when you are trying to throw and you keep landing with all that body weight on that front knee, it can get in your head big time. But once you throw, and you're like, oh, I'm fine. And once you throw again, I'm fine. I think that's what's going to happen with Polanco. They can play him deeper once he can show off that arm speed a little bit more. I think this is very temporary. And once he gets that confidence, I'm telling you right now, everything will start opening up. So I'm fine with him at third base. He'll work through it. It's early. He said that there's 4 games. He's going to be their third baseman. They may slot him into DH and move some other guys around, which they have the ability to do that. But once he just airs one out and he does it again, and he gets this arm strength cranking, he's going to be fine.
Lead leg blocking? Is that what you said there?
That's what it's called. Yeah.
Is that a bogan term, or is that?
No, that's a geek pitching driveline / nerd whatever talk. Yeah, no. So when your lead leg lands, boom, and then all that energy comes up the chain. But hey, if you've got a bad wheel like old mate over here, and you're a little husky, you're hefty, you're carrying too much weight, man, that cartilage just blows up. And that's what happened to me. So there you go.
Hey, what do you think about Hancock? What do you expect to see from him tonight? And just what your observations. Obviously, everything comes from part of spring training, but then leading into this first night, you think he's ready? Yeah,
I do. I really do. I think last year he was in a similar situation where, I'm not going to call it filling in, right? I spoke to him the other day. He's actually my next guest on the Top Step on Friday. How about that? But Emerson, I love talking to him because he goes a little deeper. And it's funny because there's the perception with him is, all right, hey, this rotation's awesome, but yeah, you're going to be the 6th guy. And Dave, you know this, man, being a former athlete, and Bob, I'm sure you felt like this too. In the back of your mind, I'm not a 6th man here. I want to be the number 1, number 2 in this rotation. He kind of has that mindset. I think last year was a little bit different. Going 12 months back, he was like, oh, I've got this big opportunity. Let's see how long I can stick around. This year, I think he's got maybe a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, kind of like he had at the end of last year, and he's got something to prove. And so if he can carry that energy with everything he learned from last year, just even on just straight competing at this level, besides all the nerd pitching stuff that you can dive into, just from a competitive standpoint, he was so much better in September than what he was in April, even when he was rattling off a bunch of good starts before he got to Milwaukee in the month of April. I just think there's a difference there. And like I said, going back to the fact he's got I guarantee he won't probably not say it too much publicly. You can tell there's just a little bit of that chip on his shoulder to say, you know what, I'm auditioning every single time, and I want to stay in this rotation all year long, regardless of who's coming back, who's in the rotation. I don't care. I want to be a dude. So I'm looking forward to watching him. I love watching guys like that.
That's good to hear.
Hey, Ryan, what's your takeaway from the bullpen? You know, to me, it's been a bit of a mixed bag. You look. It's good to see Gabe Spire back. I know it was just a brief, 2/3 of an inning, but he looked good. Santos has looked pretty solid. Obviously, Munoz, Snyder all look good. Saucedo, not so much. Carlos Vargas, Bizardo, not quite. You know, again, early. Got to keep throwing that out there.
Yeah.
But what's your takeaway from the bullpen performances you've seen?
I think with Sauce, you know, he threw a really good pitch. Guy got jammed. Should have been out of the inning. We talked about that Polanco play. And then it just, unraveled after that. You have those outings. He will have those outings. I think he's going to be fine as that second lefty. Gabe Spire, man, looked really good. Velocity's up, man. When that velocity's up 1.5 miles like it is, and you got that run on that fastball, then all of a sudden, I can get back in the strike zone. There's no better feeling. But I think this bullpen, it looks really good. You mentioned Gregory Santos, too. They gave him that lower leverage spot a little bit early in the game. And then all of a sudden he's pitching in a tight game. He looked even better when he got in that tight game. I think the one thing with Gregory Santos, just watching him throw, let's not forget, I think we label him as already being this established dude. He really isn't. Like, he still has a lot to prove as well. And when he came over from the White Sox, he was still kind of on the up and coming. There wasn't, and obviously he was injured and everything else. But I think he's going to be a big weapon. But there doesn't have to be this focus where he has to throw the 8th inning because he's got nasty stuff and then hand it off to Munoz. You can mix and match with him, get that ground ball if you need to. But bullpen, I think they're in good shape. Trent Thornton had a crazy month of September. Last year, he just had the tough July. So I think that the bullpen looked good. I think they're going to be solid. Just get in the strike zone, and they'll be okay.